right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Gateway Podcast. We're like at episode like 42 or 43 or something. Kind of depends on when this gets posted. But yeah, basically I'm doing the interview with Chickenman 2 Electric Boogaloo as he's done one just a couple days ago. How's it going, my guy?
You know what? It is going fantastically. I'm looking forward to this one.
Oh,
You
I'm
call it,
looking forward to
it's
it
like
as
the
well.
sequel, but sometimes the sequel can be better than the original.
Sometimes. So this is what happened the last time I did something similar to this. So for those who like don't know, basically Chickenman here has done an interview with Aorette. How many days ago did you record that actually?
It was not that long ago. Probably a week ago.
Probably a week ago. Yeah, so we're just like a week off. I think it got published like 2 days ago though. But yeah. So last time this happened, where I had to kind of base myself on another interview was with Uppatree's Zelda. He had done one with nice username, and what's tricky about doing this kind of second interview or like a sequel is you kind of have to build yourself on that first one, but you can't overthink it. So it has like the potential to be like really good because you can dive even deeper. But if you start like making overly convoluted questions, it could get messy real fast. So I'm gonna try and do good today. But yeah, super excited to have you on. I've been looking forward to this today very much, as I've re-listened to your interview with Aorette twice already in the past 2 days, so fully up to speed. And you're pretty much fresh off of it too. So
yeah, thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hell yeah,
certainly.
I was actually I tuned into your stream earlier today during the day, and it was only through your stream that I learned it was St. Patrick's Day. So what I did, I was like, oh shit, well actually what I gotta do, I gotta go to the corner store. I gotta get a beer for this because like I can finally drink and not feel guilty. So let's go for it, right? So I go up to the corner store, and unfortunately it's not a supermarket, so there's not that many choices, but there were like basically beers. All I wanted was a beer with the word Irish on it. It's all I wanted. It's all I wanted in life. So I go up to like the fridges, and there's beers from 5 different countries. All right, so there's oh, okay, real quick. None of them are from Ireland, okay? Just so we're clear. So basically what I did is that I played a mini game of GeoGuessr, and I'm like, which beer here would score me the most points for being the closest to Ireland? All right? Now this is where you come in, Chickenman, all right? Because I know you love your GeoGuessr. I'm going to give you 5 countries, and you have to tell me which one is closest in proximity to Ireland.
Ooh.
Here we go.
That's a tough question. All right.
Here we go. All right. We've got Canada. We've got Belgium. We've got Germany. We have USA. And we've got Italy.
Oh, all right. This is a good geography question here. I'm going to go ahead and put Belgium in as my final answer.
And the answer is Belgium indeed. So I got myself
yes.
A Belgian? That's a weird way to say it. Belgian beer, yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
So,
sounds delicious.
It is quite good. It's not bad for corner store beer.
I drank a beer on stream, but don't tell anybody this. It was actually a hard cider.
Oh.
Because I really don't like beer.
Oh.
So.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Is it like the taste or something like that, or? Well, I mean, for the most
part.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never really had a beer where I was like, that's good. I want more of it. It's always just like I get halfway through the beer and I go, I don't want this anymore. I'm tired of this.
Gotcha. Well, that's fair. To each their own. And honestly, my taste in beer has changed a lot. I remember a while back the first beer you always taste is like the blonde one, right? And then you're kind of like, it's not great. And then 5 years later, you're like, I'm kind of feeling like a beer. So you start drinking the blonde one, and then you realize it's actually shit and it tastes like nothing again. So there's like a cycle. And so right now I'm actually really into all the beers that taste really strong. So I love either black beers or white beers, which is the opposite of my taste in coffee. I hate my coffee black. I feel like it tastes too strong. Oh my God.
That's so fun. I was actually going to ask because I feel like there's a lot of overlap between like coffee and beer.
I would
I feel
think
like
too.
people who really love coffee also really love beer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because both have strong tastes, right? But
Yeah.
dude, I don't know. I couldn't tell you really. I think it's maybe it's just more the fact that I really like the taste of milk. I just love milk in general, so maybe it's like, well, kind of need it. Depends on the beer though. I'm sorry. Depends on the the coffee. Don't put milk in your beer. Holy shit! Never mind what I said.
I've
Okay.
never tried it. I mean, it could be good. I don't know.
No.
Little milk beer.
Although, okay, so the weirdest thing I've ever heard about beer was I was working in a restaurant once, and some people would put tomato juice in their beer. Have you heard of this?
What? That
So,
sounds awful.
dude, it does sound awful, but it's only like 60-plus-year-old women apparently that do this. They put tomato juice in their beer. It's a thing. Look it up after. I'm not even joking. I was like, what
Oh
is
my god,
this?
that's awful. Is that like some sort of like Bloody Mary beer
I couldn't
concoction?
tell you. I did not attempt to do that. Maybe I should. You know, maybe there's hidden gems somewhere. You know, you never know.
You know what? Good luck. Good luck.
Yeah.
I don't like either of those things, so I have
Ugh,
no desire
I'll
to
probably
put
need
them
it.
together.
I'm always open to new shit in general. I mean, like if people drink it, how bad can it be, right? So I try to
Pretty
stay
bad.
open-minded.
Pretty bad.
It's probably bad.
It can be yeah, it can be pretty bad. I mean, people drink light beer, right? So
True.
I
True. Yeah.
it's I tried a Corona once and I was like, this why?
Mm.
Why?
On the subject of coffee, I don't know why I'm gonna start off with this, but I was listening to right the A Red interview, and a lot of my questions revolve around a very similar thing, which is kind of time management and like how little sleep I feel like you must get, because you work like multiple jobs or like at least a part time job, and you stream like almost full time. I don't know like your proportions are, but I feel like I don't even know when you find time to sleep. How do you kind of like manage streaming and working and just having maybe a life outside of those two things?
I mean, I have had so many different schedules over the last few years since I started streaming, both in work schedules and outside of work or streaming, like other life things schedules that I try not to like button it up too hard. That okay, I'm gonna spend this much time streaming and this much time working and this much time relaxing and sleeping or whatever.
Mhm.
I I just try to kind of play it by ear. You know, I feel like my schedule is always changing. I'm not really great at time management. I'll tell you that right now.
Hmm.
So I really have to force myself to try to stick to whatever schedule seems like it's going to work at least for the next couple of months.
Mhm.
And then it'll probably change again after that for whatever reason.
Yeah, so you're pretty flexible. And the reason why I kind of go off of this off of coffee is just wondering like, do you need a lot of coffee to function with these very kind of heavy schedules, or are you all natural?
I so very recently actually I've been drinking a lot of energy drinks, which
Mm.
is something I am not a fan of, so I'm trying to kind of get it back away from that a little bit and just save them for days where I'm super busy. Uh but yeah, I generally like I don't drink coffee.
Okay.
Every now and then I'll stop at like a Starbucks kind of place and get something fancy with caffeine in it, but
Mhm.
I don't I don't really drink coffee and I try to avoid caffeinated beverages as much as I can.
Yeah. Do you is it just because you don't need it, or is it because you just try to avoid caffeine in general? Like, do you get enough like sleep every most days, I guess?
I mean, it was originally I just never needed it. You know, I
Mhm.
was never a coffee in the morning kind of person.
Yeah.
That being said, I do get very tired midday a lot of times, so maybe
Yeah.
coffee would help me there. But yeah, I tend to like once I get going in my day, I don't really feel the need for caffeine. And it's honestly because I know that I can exist without it that I try to avoid it because I don't want to get to that point where I need it. You know, I don't want to become dependent on
Yeah.
my morning coffee or whatever it is.
Yeah, for sure. I totally
Because I
get
know
it.
I can exist without it. So I just try to stay away from it as much as I can.
Yeah. I mean, coffee is like it's like the mini cheat code that we let ourselves have. But the problem is if you're relying on that cheat code, then you can't actually play the game properly, right? Without it. So
Yeah.
I can totally feel that. You mentioned also this I laugh so hard at this because I related so good to this thing you said. So you said, and your superpower, dude, is if you went to sleep and then no time would pass, time would stop. That's fucking
Yeah.
amazing. Because actually, I'll give you a better one. Why don't you just have infinite energy and don't need to sleep?
I've thought of that too. I and it's the tough thing about that for me is I kind of like sleeping. I
Yes.
like
Here we
lying in
go.
bed and resting.
Mm,
And even if like I didn't have to sleep, I would still kind of want to do that.
yeah.
So to me, like the act of going to sleep and waking up is very enjoyable.
Oh,
So
going to
I
sleep
want to
is
still be
enjoyable as
able.
well. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, waking up isn't very enjoyable. Although this morning, I'll tell you, I woke up with no alarm. It was fantastic.
Oh yeah.
I just woke up. It was great.
That's probably the best part of
But
my week, honestly. Whenever I get to weekends and I can just wake up when I need to. And it's
I
oh
know
my god.
I haven't gotten to do that in like 3 or 4 weeks, and
Hmm.
it's just been crushing me.
Man, that's crazy. Yeah, I kind of felt I kind of figured out you would answer it that way because I had never thought of that solution before, where time would stop only when you slept. Because when I thought of the infinite energy thing, at first it was just because like I hate going to sleep. This is like one of my big problems. I hate going to sleep because I feel like whenever I sleep, I could be doing something else more productive, and
Oh,
time passes,
yeah.
and you just feel like you could do so much more with those 8 hours. But at the same time, so I hate going to sleep, but I also hate waking up because when I wake up the next morning, I was like, oh, sleeping feels so good. So I was like, how can I have both? How can I have? And you just gave me the solution. I was like, how did I didn't think of this? This is unbelievable. It's giant brain plays. But yeah, it's like it's a love-hate relationship. I hate going to sleep, but I love sleeping. It's so
Yeah.
dumb.
Well, I totally understand that. Like, I really, I love sleeping, but at the same time, there's so many things I want to do, and I've been saying
Yeah.
this a lot lately.
Mhm.
I'm so behind. I have 10 projects that I like want to do that I haven't started on, and I'm behind on the ones that I have started.
Yeah.
Yeah, that extra 8 hours, just if I had that power for like a week, I would catch up on so many things.
Yeah.
And feel so much better.
100%, yeah. I'd even actually, dude, I even thought about it like next level too. So, the shit, what was he? How do I say this? Basically, instead of time, or okay, now I remember where I wanted to go. Again, this is like the bucket analogy too, where you just have a million things in your head and you just got to pick it out before you lose it. But um, hold on. Yeah. So this is one of the most resonating lines that you might resonate to with. But there's no particular person who said this, but there's only so many hours in a day. And that is such a problem. And then cause like ideally, if I would need to sleep like 8 hours, it's like I feel like 16 hours in one day. It's still like not enough to get everything I want to do like in the same day. So then I started thinking, okay, well, shit, what if days were like 31 hours? I feel like that would be not bad. You know, that's like an extra like 4-6 hours, roughly. It's like extra 6 hours in a day would be sick. And I was like, what if my power was to be able to slow down the rotation of the Earth and like, okay, no, that just got way too intense. But I love thinking about powers. I don't know why, but
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I always think about like, man, I wish I could do any number of things. It's really anything.
yeah.
But that's how I came up with the idea of not not having time move while you slept.
Yeah.
I was like, that'd be the perfect way.
I
You
feel
could
like
just sleep
that is
whenever
the
you
perfect
want.
answer. Yeah, it is better than infinite energy because
There's no way
Yeah.
to like, I guess do that thing like genies will grant your wish,
Yeah.
but they'll turn it against you. Like it doesn't feel like there's a way to turn it against you. It's just when you sleep, you wake up and no time has passed.
I could find a way to turn it against you. But because whenever I think about powers, I always think of a consequence. There has to be one. There has to be a drawback. The only passable drawback that I could think is whenever you sleep and time stops. Time stops for the world, but your body still ages that 8 hours. That's the mini drawback there. That I would have put on. But yeah, I don't know why I give myself these conditions, but I do all the time for every superpower that I think of. And I think about superpowers very philosophically, but let's not get into that because that's literally a 3-hour podcast. I'm not even joking.
That's a whole other discussion.
That's a whole other discussion. So, you know what? What I'll do, Mr. Chickenman, is that I'm going to tell you how I came about your stream, which was probably somewhere in around like 2017. So what would happen during that time? Little me would go to bed, and it would be like, I don't know, like 11, something like that, because I had school next day or whatever. And I would put on this streamer called Up a Tree Zelda. Okay. Now this man, of course, as you know, streams from like 11 to 7. He used to have this nighttime shit going on. And what would happen is that like I would go to sleep on Up a Tree, and then I would wake up, and then I would just see like on my laptop, there's this dude with sunglasses playing classic rock. Like we built this city on rock and roll while playing StarCraft and Diamond League and having like a Hawaiian shirt. And I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? That was a crazy personality. I was like, I've never seen a StarCraft streamer with that kind of like personality / branding or whatever. I was like, this is genius. This is really fucking cool. And I thought about this, and I feel like your image has changed like a lot over the years from being like, because before seeing your eyes was less likely than like seeing you with sunglasses, right?
Yeah,
that was kind of like the personality I like came to know you as by. So how did like your image change over the years? Maybe why, and just like generally talk about that, I guess.
I mean, you know, it feels so gradual to me, but it's so funny you mentioning that. Yeah, I used to literally just wear sunglasses while I played all the time. I never took them off.
Yeah.
And I don't really know why that was. I feel like I just decided to wear them one day, and I was like, this is a good idea. This looks pretty cool.
It was cool.
And then I just kept doing that. And then I had lovely people like you in chat telling me it was cool, and I was like, let's do it.
Yeah.
At some point, the sunglasses started coming off a little bit, and part of that was I started casting, and it became a little bit more difficult to cast with sunglasses on.
Yeah.
So I would cast without the sunglasses and play with them on. Eventually, over time, I think I was just like, man, it is so hard to see with sunglasses. I probably boosted up 200 MMR taking those off.
Oh yeah,
because
it's mostly minimap related, right? Basically.
Yeah, a lot of it's just in the minimap, but also anything in the peripheral vision, like the corners of the screen, it just gets so lost. You do not see that with sunglasses on. I tried to play with sunglasses on a couple months ago, and I was like, I did this for like 2 years. How did I do this?
It's crazy. But I mean, there's a sacrifice. Like either I play better or I look way cooler. Like you kind of got to choose between that, right?
Oh, yeah. Why do you have to choose, man?
Yeah, kind of sucks. Dude, I tried streaming once or twice or 3 times with Darth Vader helmet. And
oh my God.
I saw jack shit, dude. It was terrible. Not that I need to do much because I was playing Protoss with the Tal'Darim skin as what I wanted to do. And you don't need to look at much when you're playing Protoss. I'm just kidding. But
that's true.
I could see how you get used to it, but I can definitely understand why eventually, as soon as it comes off, it's kind of like a relief. It's like, yes.
Yeah.
And you kind of don't want to put them back on, or at least you don't want to as much, so yeah. But I mean, across the years, you've always had like a lot of very flamboyant like costumes and stuff. Does that kind of come from your history in like theater?
Yeah, it definitely does. I've always just enjoyed wearing kind of out there clothing and stuff, and I haven't always like been able to or had cause to. You know, if I'm just going to the store, I'm not gonna wear crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But like a lot of times I'd go to openings of a show or something, and any excuse to dress up. and I would dress up in some fun costume. So
Oh,
I brought that to streaming because it was something I feel like I didn't see too much of. Once I
no,
got
really?
into streaming a little bit, I started thinking, well, how can I make this mine? You know, how can I make my channel something a little bit different than what I'm seeing here,
Mhm.
specifically in the StarCraft community? And I thought, well, I'll dress up. You know, I'll do like a costume streams because I have random clothes. I'll throw stuff together. At the time, I worked at a theater,
Mhm.
so I would borrow costume pieces sometimes. I'd be like, hey, I'm just gonna borrow this hat or a jacket or something,
Mhm.
and just wear kind of whatever. And I don't know. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to dress up
Oh,
in different
for
costumes for
sure.
me.
Well, I assume that's actually kind of like the that's what people like in cosplay is just like being able to dress up. Cause like before, when you were a kid, the only time you could really dress up is Halloween. Let's be real. But when you can dress
Yeah.
up whenever you want, just to be entertaining, that must be really cool, right? Especially if like Halloween's like your favorite part is just dressing up. Then yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure, yeah. Is there any like costume or accessory or item of clothing that has like sentimental value at this point for you?
Honestly, I'd probably just have to come back to the sunglasses.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
just I mean, the specific pair of sunglasses aren't super old, but I've
Mhm.
kind of always had aviators on,
Yeah.
and like if I'm going to wear sunglasses, that's the style I'm gonna wear. And I don't know, it feels like something that I feel like is a part of me.
Yeah, it feels OG Chicken Man, you know. It feels like
Yeah.
how you started streaming, right? Do you used to like wear sunglasses in general, or did you kind of like put that on for the persona of the stream? I guess.
I mean, I think I've always worn aviators. Like I have a very
Yeah.
specific memory. I wore aviators to my high school prom.
Oh, that's so
Like,
cool, dude. Oh my god.
yeah, no, see,
Yeah.
I was cool.
Yeah.
At
Hell yeah.
least I thought I was cool.
Yeah.
But so, it was kind of a natural thing when I'm streaming, when I
Mhm.
started streaming, and I was like, maybe it'd be cool if I wore sunglasses. And I think it was part of a costume initially. I think I like
Mhm.
put on a bandana and I had my jean jacket on, and I was like, the aviators really sell
You
this
were
look.
America.
I was
Basically.
America.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna keep rocking the aviators. Like I'm going for that
Oh,
kind
forever,
of
yeah.
rock and roll look, and I think it just wearing sunglasses indoors is already just I don't know. It's one of those things that you do
Oh
as a
yeah.
rock star, right?
Dude,
So
I mean it's aviators indoors, nighttime, in the winter.
yeah.
Like it's all those things combined. Um yeah, you mentioned like okay, wait, so um you had the aviators, like, you had like the kind of the American setup right there for a second. You also mentioned like classic rock. As I mentioned, like I would always wake up and there would always be a classic rock playing, like whenever I would wake up to go to school, and I thought that was really fucking cool. Obviously now DMCA shit happened. It's probably not going to
Yeah.
that, but I was wondering because I couldn't really catch that I would always catch the tail end of your stream because this blew my mind too, but like you would stream for like quite a bit, and then you'd be like, "All right, guys, this is probably my last game because after that I got a full days of work to go to," and I'm like, "Wait, what? This is not possible." When I go to if I was like before work or after work, I would maybe not be too tired to play video games, but I would be way too tired to stream. So, real quick, like props to you for having that kind of fucking energy. It's insane. Um, but back to like my question is what would be real quick like the like an OG rock and roll mini playlist that would represent Chicken Man? Like what would be all the songs that you
Ooh,
just had to lip sync to whenever they came on your stream?
God, I mean, I'll tell you, um,
Because I'm noting them
I'm
down, by
really
the way.
like I'm such a boring like white guy when it comes to classic rock. I love all the standards, man. I'm a
Mm,
huge Beatles fan.
yeah.
I think that's honestly probably something that doesn't come through a lot when streaming. Like I
Hmm.
don't have a lot of Beatles memorabilia on stream, and obviously, like you said, DMCA I can't really listen to
Yeah.
popular music, but I'm a massive Beatles fan. I know pretty much every word to every song.
Oh
Uh,
wow. Okay. Yeah.
And then moving on from there, I really love a lot of 70s music, Queen, Led Zeppelin,
Yeah.
and like CCR, Creedence Clearwater Revival. It just tons of 70s rock. Um, yeah, I'll listen to that all day. If I could, on Twitch, I absolutely would still listen to that
Yeah.
all the time.
I mean, that was one of the parts, that gradually pushed you to the Chickenman that was today, is the fact that, well, you could technically stay with, the aviators and the American setup, but unfortunately, without the music, it kind of, there's a kind of a piece missing there. So you kind of
Yeah.
became your own thing. Your eyes are beautiful
I
though,
think-
so just keep them on screen for
Thank you.
sure.
Thank you.
It's all good there.
I think you're absolutely right, though. Like, a big part of the persona that I had early on in streaming, I had to move away from it, and part of that was definitely without the music, it's not really the same. And another big part of that is as I went further into casting.
Yeah.
So a lot of that, like, really heavy persona,
Mhm.
you kind of have to stray away from that when you're casting, I think, and you've got to be more of I mean, it's kind of like a general
Do you,
caster
though?
kind of person.
Do you though? I mean,
I
technically,
definitely
if you
think
want
you
to be
can keep-
successful and if you want to be accepted by
Yeah.
ESL, you probably have to. That's true. But technically,
I think
imagine if
that's
you could
totally
keep your persona
fine.
though. That would have been insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that's perfectly fine. If I was really focused on streaming and playing and had that persona, then when I did an occasional cast, maybe I think it would be totally fine to have that persona
Mhm.
doing the cast.
Yeah.
But for me, if I'm going to try to be a caster, I want to, I'm not going to stick with one race. I'm going to make sure I know all the races. I'm
Yeah.
not going to do it from a biased racial perspective.
Mhm.
I want to really try to be the best commentator I can be, and I think the persona doesn't really fit into that. But it's also part of it is like the persona doesn't allow me to be, I guess, kind of human as much.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to have human moments
Mhm.
if you're kind of being this big, larger than life
Yeah,
persona.
and it's exhausting too. It would be so difficult
Yeah.
to keep that up for the amount of casts that you do. You're right. Had you done 3-4 hour, streams or whatnot, probably be way more doable because then you have the other 10 hours in your day to be yourself. But yeah, I mean, you're an endurance caster is basically what you. Well, I mean, that's what they were looking for basically. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be able to have endurance when you're doing a 12-hour cast.
Oh, 100%. And I know I would not be able to do that because the longest I've casted. So sometimes I get hired to cast these local tournaments in Quebec, and after 5-6 hours, I'm pretty much dead. My voice is so bad. You were talking about voice control as well, dude. There's so many things I relate to in that interview. It's so funny, but yeah, my voice just goes. And what's weird is that I also sing quite a bit, but I can only sing for an hour because I don't have proper breath control technique, and I just don't understand how to use my diaphragm properly, which sucks. But
it's I feel like it's one of those things where every time I took a class that or was in a show where somebody was teaching me how to breathe a certain way or speak or sing a certain way, I was always like, is this really going to help me? It didn't feel particularly helpful, but over time, I guess you collect enough muscle memory where now speaking all day really isn't a problem for me. I can literally, I will sing for hours at the detriment of everybody around me.
yeah.
I'm just perfectly happy doing that. And, it becomes an issue. There's only so much the human body can do, but there certainly is something to be said for practicing, like you said, working with your diaphragm, making sure that if you are trying to make any sort of growling noises, whatever that is, you're not hurting your throat.
Yep. Man, I wish
which
I could
is something
growl,
that
Ugh,
can be really difficult to do.
the dream. I had one singing lesson once, and a teacher told me if you want to practice how your diaphragm should feel whenever you talk, just blow into a balloon, because you have to push a little harder, and it has to come from the diaphragm,
Yeah.
whatever. So I did that, and I would just like blow balloons like all day for like 2 days, and I was like, well, this is kind of fucked. I can't be bothered. Blowing the balloon is kind of annoying, and I lost how to figure it out. But technically, I know there are exercises, but can't be bothered honestly. Unfortunately, fortunately, to go back to like the point where you said you were playing random, it really helps you kind of understand and cast a lot of games, and you touched on that subject with Arid as well, but I think it's particularly important when you solo cast because you do need to kind of understand, both sides as much as possible. Like when you play Zerg, you understand the struggles of Zerg versus Terran, just like you understand the struggles of Terran versus Zerg as well. So whenever, one of the races in that game falls behind, you can kind of relate and understand like this is pretty bad for the Zerg because this, right? Instead, if you were just a Terran player, you would say, "Oh, this is really good for the Terran for this reason." But now you can kind of empathize both ways as well, and I find it's really important to have all the points of view, and there would be a lot less balance point if everyone played random. I think most people could agree.
No, I absolutely think like everybody should just play the other two races for a while and like see how you feel all of a sudden.
See how you feel.
Because what you're gonna realize is
True.
everything that you think is OP isn't when you're using it. And all of a sudden you realize that, oh man, yeah, when people say this was OP and I was like, no, it's not, it totally is. It totally is.
Yeah.
It's very funny to play those other races and realize, man, it's not quite as good as it seems to be, right?
Yeah.
Like Swarm Host, I hate playing against Swarm Hosts. Oh my god, especially like Heart of the Swarm, but even just through most of Legacy of the Void, god, I've hated Swarm Hosts. But man, I will never make Swarm Hosts. It's like the funniest thing. I hate playing against them, but I will die immediately if I try to use them.
Yeah, okay, it's because you die. It's not because like you've got personal ethics against playing it. It's like if it's just if you do it, then you die because you're like kind of and I did this too. I was like, dude, Swarms are crazy. So I started playing a game versus Protoss, and I never found the time to be able to take a third base and spend my goddamn money because they're free units. And it's like, well, damn, now I can't spend my money. I have no bases. I have all these free units, and yet my tech is like there's no direction. And it's like, oh my god, yeah. Yeah, I can relate for sure. I think whenever you play the two other races that you don't play, during the time that you play those, you understand. And then as soon as you go back to your main, you start whining again. But at least for a moment.
Yeah.
For a ladder session, you understand the struggles.
That's all you need sometimes.
Yeah. But what I do love though, and this is where duo casting comes in, and I'm pretty sure you notice this in tournaments too. If there is a like Terran versus Protoss happening on stage, do you know who they call to cast that? They call Roddy and DeMuslim, okay? Because those two don't play random, but they play both of the races that are included in the game, and that makes for some of the greatest casts. So like for those who are like, I kind of want to be a caster, but you don't play random necessarily, just get like someone who plays the other race with like you in the cast, and it just works so well because you can just both go off each other so easily. Yeah.
I think there's absolutely something to be said for that. And like both Roddy and DeMuslim are like really high level, so they can get into the nitty gritty of the matchup, right? You can get really insightful things in a matchup that, I mean, like I'm in Diamond. It doesn't matter what the hell race I play. I'm in Diamond. I'm not going to be able to give you that deep insight knowledge into TVP because I haven't played as many TVPs in my life as either Roddy or DeMuslim probably played this month. They play so much. They have so much just innate knowledge and experience and feeling about their specific races, and they both know a ton about the other races too. They've obviously been casting and playing for so damn long that it's impossible not to, but that really innate knowledge is so great to listen to. It's one of the reasons that the past couple of years, whenever Nate and Katz casted TVZ together, it's like my favorite casts I
Yeah.
love those.
Yeah, I was
They're
gonna
so
ask
much
like
fun
what
because
duo
both
you
of
like the
them.
most, and like there's some duos that are just magical. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean honestly, it's really hard to pick like specific duos. I think a lot of it comes down to the match as well.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
Nate and Cats are so fun to listen to because it's almost like borderline. They both kind of want to balance wine,
But yeah, but at the
but
same time,
they just kind of
yeah,
hint at it.
they're both
But
a
it's
little bit
very
trolly.
tongue in cheek. Yeah, they're very like just having fun. There's clearly no like animosity. It's just
Yeah.
the like little bits of tension are so funny to me. I love that.
Oh yeah. 100%. Do you think?
And I'm sure like Roddy and DeMuslim probably do the same thing too.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. Do you think there's like how important do you think StarCraft knowledge is to like a cast? Do you think it's that important actually? Or I'm not even sure because I always ask myself this question. I can't really find myself to have a clear answer to that because it seems to be it would seem to contradict itself over and over as to yes, and then it goes to no, and then it goes to yes. So I wonder what your take is on that actually.
Yeah, I've thought about that too because I think it's a little difficult to quantify. A lot of it depends on how straightforward the match is. Maybe like if you were to go into say TY versus Parting,
Mhm.
I think you have to have good game knowledge to understand why that matchup is so cool. I was just watching a clip recently from Katowice where Parting had like proxied, I think he proxied a Stargate, but TY scouted it, and then TY countered with Widow Mines and an Armory, so they were invisible, and he was following it up with a Thor, and like, if you're watching that and don't know StarCraft, it makes no fucking sense. You have no idea why the Armory is important. Why is a Thor coming out interesting?
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, like a really standard TVZ, if you had like Beyond Rainer, yeah, like anybody can understand that. It's armies smashing in the middle of the map. You know, there's nothing super complicated about why that match is exciting. It just is exciting. So I think a lot of it depends. And you have great commentators that can absolutely dictate the way a game's going and talk about the game without knowing the nitty gritty details. You know, you don't need to know that the pool was 8 seconds late when you're 15 minutes into a back and forth match. You know, those nitty gritty details don't always provide extra, but it can be really helpful. And that's, I think, the benefit of having two commentators, right? Is you can have a tasteless who's going to get you super fucking hype. But then you got your Artosis who can tell you specifically why this build was chosen because he was talking to the pro players a week ago.
Yeah. And
you know, it's that balance is really important.
The thing with Artos and Taste is that they are the rule of thumb to my example because on the one hand, they have the most experience in the scene, so they're just good at casting, period. Then you've got the factor of like, well, neither of them play StarCraft 2. Right? They just kind of play Brood War a lot of times. They just cast, but then it's like on the flip side again, they cast so much StarCraft 2 at high level that they do understand the responses. And you kind of said a keyword earlier was that it's a lot in analyzing the response and why it's being done, right? That's why like you would need a DeMuslim to explain to you why the Terran's response would be the correct one or something like that. And honestly, I don't think a lot of people would be able to explain TY's response or Parting's response because their response are literally way too big brain for us to even fathom sometimes, honestly. Yeah, I gotta rewatch those games.
Even that can
just those games
bring so much entertainment, right? And at the end of the day, it is all about entertainment. So sometimes the really fun part is you go, you know what? I'm giving up analyzing. We're gonna all enjoy this together. I don't know why SOS has a Nexus over there. I don't know.
I don't know, dude.
But
you tell me.
We're enjoying it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. No idea.
And then the DTs recall, and you go, I guess that's what it's for.
Yeah.
I guess so.
And he even said it too. It was like, oh, he's gonna recall the Adepts, and then he does that, but that's not the point. The point is that he built a probe, and it's like, oh my god, dude, what is happening? Yeah, I mean, there's some moments where it's so far gone out of your knowledge that it just becomes funny again. um,
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of like the sweet spot. Ah, I had so many things in my mind again. I can't choose. I can't choose again, man. Um, yeah, I guess we can move on to a slightly different topic. So we mentioned kind of like we wanted to do a sequel to the Arena interview, but actually, the more I think about it, it's actually going to be a prequel because I'm going way
As a
far back.
prequel.
Oh, we're going way
Awesome.
far back, my guy. So,
Excellent.
as far as like your childhood in games goes, like, do you remember anything like
Ooh.
before like 10 and under that you played as
Oh,
like
yeah.
video games? And like, were there any games that like stand out as crazy nostalgia or something like that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This is a fantastic question. 10 out of 10. Um, I grew up on video games. Like as a little kid, um, I had I was lucky enough, fortunate enough to have multiple different consoles. We had a Super Nintendo,
Hmm.
and N64, an original PlayStation. Like I have very distinct memories of playing games and even going to like arcades. Man, Time Crisis 2, you know, that game brings back so much
Mm,
nostalgia for me.
yeah.
But as far as like video games go in general, I played a ton of console games. I remember on the Super Nintendo specifically, and this is very young. I must have been like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
There's a game called, I think, Island Adventure 2.
Oh, let me
That
Google
and
this.
yeah, right. I had to Google it to figure out what the hell it was called. At some point, I was like, "What was that game I used to play?"
Yeah.
And Mario, was it Mario Paint? I think I only used the music function in that pretty much,
Mm.
where you could like do the different music notes. That I honestly, that's probably like taught me a ton about music as a kid,
Mhm.
was playing in that game. But then yeah, all sorts of fighting games. I would play Tekken on original PlayStation. I still have
Ah,
that disc.
amazing.
Um, and
Yes.
there were some really niche games too. I had a game called Criticom, which if you've never heard of it, yep,
Nerd.
nobody else has either.
Just
Super
you.
niche little PlayStation 1 game. I had a
Yeah.
game called Battle Arena Toshinden,
Yeah.
which was amazing. It's such a fun game. And these are all just like random fighting games.
Hmm. Did you
Uh,
like out of all those games, you know, that kind of bring back really, really old nostalgia memories? Ever since kind of like the arrival of like those like more recent like emulators, have there any games that you've actually went back to or that you thought of like, man, I kind of want to play that again? No, no, no. Yeah, for real. I don't know.
well, I feel like I'm building up to it because I haven't mentioned a single N64 game yet, and that
Mm,
that console defines my childhood.
mm.
Um, and it is literally set up at my TV right now with Banjo Kazooie in it.
Oh,
Um, it still like is such a huge part of like my life. The Nintendo 64, Super Mario 64, and I every game that Rare made for the N64, I think I played all of them.
yeah.
Pokemon Stadium, Pokemon Snap. I spent so much time playing Nintendo 64 games as a kid, and even like later it never really left. That's kind of the beauty of the N64, is that I always kept playing it through high school. Like sure, I had a PlayStation 2, it was a better console with newer
Mm.
games. I'd still load up the N64 and play that. You know, I went to college, I had an Xbox 360 and an N64 in
Wow.
college.
Jesus.
Uh yeah, I always played it. I would play Super Smash with people on my floor my freshman year, which honestly led me into how I got into StarCraft. Like the N64, I played Super Smash with a friend.
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh, I have some other friends that lived in the dorm that played Melee, which was the GameCube version." He's like, "Do you want to
Yes.
come play with us?" I was like, "Absolutely." I played Melee a little bit, so I
Yeah.
went and played. Through those friends, discovered that Evo was a thing,
Yeah.
that esports was a thing,
Yeah.
and then they taught me what StarCraft was. Literally, like the Nintendo 64 has been such a huge part of my life, and now, like my girlfriend and I will play. We played Pokemon Stadium together the other night.
Oh man, dude, that is the cartridge I've loaded up the most times I think in the N64. Mostly because I lost Super Smash Bros. 64. I'm pretty sure I like didn't know where it was. There was two games. It was like a fighting game. I forget what it was, and there was a Pokemon Stadium. And I remember the first thing you do, man, as soon as you start your team, okay, scroll to the bottom, lock in that Articuno. You know it's good. You know that shit's good. Ice Beam is good against everything, okay?
Oh
It's a
my
no-brainer.
God.
But yeah, I love that
Let me
game.
tell you,
100%.
as a kid, I would pop in my blue cartridge, and this will lead into the saddest story you've ever heard. But I had a level 100 Alakazam that would just
Mm,
absolutely demolish anybody. The one hit wonder voice line in Pokemon Stadium,
mhm.
I heard that a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
Just bop them out. But when I was my first, I think it was my first year in college, I came back and discovered that there had been a garage sale and that my stepmother had decided to sell my Game
No.
Boy, all my Game Boy games, and um, all the N64 games that I had left behind
Oh no,
when I went
man.
to college. So, I went to college and I was like, oh, I have, you know, 20 games,
Mhm.
25 games. I'm just going to take like 10, right? I'm just going to take a few because I'm coming back, right? It's not like they're gone. No, they were gone. So, uh, I actually had to make the awful choice of choosing because the person who bought them was going to pick them up
Mhm.
like a couple days later.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? And they were like, well, we promised them 10 N64 games. So I had to choose which games to give to this person.
Yeah.
I'm still upset about that. It's been like 12 years. I'm still
I'm
upset about
still
that.
upset, man. I came so close to something similar, where basically my mom was going through um, the attic of my old house, and she found, I don't know if she found the GameCube, but I remember she found the N64, and she told me like, "Hey, Terry, like, do you wanna?" Fuck, I just said my name, but hey, do you wanna do it? Actually, no. Worse than that, she wasn't gonna sell it. She thought about throwing it away, and I
Oh
was like,
no.
and at first I was like, all right, I have to convince her not to. What do I do here? And then the like fucking dialogue choices popped up in my head, and I had to choose one tree. And then so I discarded the tree where it was like, oh well, this is still really good. Like I might still play the N64. Like it's still a really good console. And I went with the other tree, which she totally bought. Is that this console? And it's kind of true though. This console will be worth so much money in like 10 to 20 years. We should keep this and sell it then. Right?
There you
And she
go.
was like, yeah, that makes sense. I'll just keep it. I'm like, yes, there we go. So yeah, I caught her before she threw the fucking N64 away. That would have been a
Lucky.
horror story, yeah.
That's good. I'm glad you were able to do that.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah. So you actually still play the N64. It's still on my mom's place though, but you still
Yeah.
have it plugged up.
I still have it. It is. I mean, granted, all my consoles are plugged into the TV right now, except I think, well, obviously the TV can't handle all of them. I don't have that many
Hmm.
ports, but
Yeah.
they're all like set up, ready to go. But the N64, literally, we have played it in the last month. Um, since we moved to this apartment at the beginning of February, and it's been played since then. So yeah, it's a very a console that's very near and dear to my heart, and those games are still so good. I'll load up Banjo Kazooie, and man, that game is just incredible, dude. It's so good, it's so well crafted. It's difficult and annoying, but so satisfying when you win. The
Hmm.
music is amazing. The controls are really simple and just kind of work,
Hmm.
which a lot of times you'll play games these days and that's not always the case, like you'll try to do something and like the horse gets stuck or you're trying to turn around and it's just not fucking working and you gotta jump but and in a lot of the older games those controls are just so buttoned up. Super Mario 64, he always does what you tell him to,
Hmm.
you know and sometimes you tell him to do the wrong thing, but that's on you.
Yeah, true. True.
And it reminds me of like playing StarCraft and then playing some other like older RTSs like AoE
Yeah.
or even just like Brood War. And I can't go back. I can't play those games. I'll play StarCraft And when I tell the units to do something, they do it.
And most of the
They do it
time,
right
for you,
away.
lucky
Yeah.
you, my guy.
I
But, no, yeah, go on.
Again, I may tell them to do the wrong thing,
Mm.
but that's on me.
But they'll do it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but the units just move so well. The game responds
Mhm.
so efficiently that when I go to play like Age of Empires, I'm just like, I can't.
Mhm.
I can't with this. These units take forever. What are they doing? What is going on?
Totally get you. Yeah. What so I'm thinking about like the Banjo Kazooies and the Super Mario 64. Was there any game that like, and this happened to me like between when I was 10 and 13. I call it the try hard period. What was like the hardest game that you've completed, but you like never gave up until you would finish that game? Did you ever have that experience with a game?
I don't think that game exists for me.
Mm.
I am terrible at completing games. I'm so bad at it.
Mm.
There are very few games I can think of where I played it all the way through. Like, I put a lot of hours into Skyrim. I don't think I finished the main storyline.
Mhm.
I played a lot of side quests, but completing a game has never really been like the goal for me most of the time. I just like to play and enjoy it. And
Mhm.
if at any point I'm either not enjoying it or I put it down and I don't feel like picking it back up, I don't feel that pressure to, oh, I have to complete the story. I have a Zelda wallpaper up on my monitor right now. I'm looking at thinking about how literally the only Zelda game I ever beat was Skyward Sword. I've
Mhm.
started Ocarina of Time probably 10 different times in my life. And I got a lot of the way through Twilight Princess. I've played Majora's Mask and Wind Waker. I never beat them. It's never been something that's
But has
felt
it
like
has it been kind of because of the difficulty, or just because it just ends up that you just drop it for a little bit too long and then you just don't really come back to it?
that it's just that.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever, well, I don't want to say ever, because there have been games where I've picked up to play and gone, this is really hard and I don't want to play this, so I'm not going to.
Yeah.
Ninja Gaiden
I mean,
is
that's
one that popped to mind.
I mean,
But
that's the typical. That's before the Dark Souls. Ninja Gaiden was the game that was difficult. Is
I think I borrowed it from a friend, and he was like, "Yeah, it's really, really difficult, but it's really good. You should play it." And I started playing it, and I was like, "Dude, this game fucking sucks."
yeah.
And then I put it down and never played it
It depends.
again.
Wait, how old were you at the time? I'm curious. to know.
God, I don't even know. Maybe like 16, 17?
No, that's too old, dude. As I said,
It's
like the
too old.
try-hard
Wow.
period, I tell you, dude, 10 to 13, no matter how hard a game got, if a game was really hard between in that two period of time, I was like, you know what? That's fucking right. Challenge accepted. And I would never give up until I would fucking complete that game no matter how hard it was. I think it's because it was hard that like drived me almost. But I mean, after you're 13, you can't bother. But when you're a kid, you obsess so hard that like, you know, when you're under 10, sure you obsess, but you're also shit, so there's no way you're going to finish a difficult game. But when you're 10 to 13, you obsess, but you have competence, right?
I'm trying to think now of like what games I was playing in that age range, because I feel like you're probably very right, where that's a good range, a good age where you're just like,
Yeah.
no, I'm going to finish this.
Well, it depends on like if you actually finish the game, right? In my mind, Super Mario 64 would be a pretty good example. I mean, in my memory, platformers for me personally have always been pretty damn difficult because they're very coordination focused. I mean, most games are, but in a slightly different way. And it's a type of game where it's like if you mess up a level because you die, well, you can try again, and you know you'll get closer because you're slowly assimilating the level, and then eventually you'll get through it. But yeah, I think the two games for me that were particularly difficult, I think I was 9 when I finished these two, was Crash Bandicoot Wrath of Vortex or whatever for PlayStation 2. And on the same PlayStation 2 as well, I had Jack and Daxter 2, which to this day I think would still be really difficult, like for me, because there's a lot of aspects of that game. It's like a shooter and a platformer and a racer, and it's like, goddamn. But goddamn it, dude, never gave up. I wouldn't be bothered with such a hard game today, although I play StarCraft, but that's different. But yeah.
I don't think I've ever felt that strong desire to do well because of a video
Mhm.
game.
Yeah.
Like whenever I felt the desire to get better, it's always been because of somebody else who was playing the game. Uh, I got really good at the Mario Party mini games when I was a kid
Yeah.
because I wanted to win them all. And you know
Yeah.
what? I fucking
That's
did.
right. Because you
Uh,
grinded it, dude, and then you learned all of
yeah,
them.
dude.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I
Oh,
I
I knew them
100%
all.
count that actually because
Whew.
if you like play something because you want to be good, and you like memorize the thing and you're like rewarded for learning all the mini games, 100% counts. That's exactly what I meant. Yeah.
The only game I'm trying to think because I only ever play games on like normal difficulty also
I
because
mean that's
again to
that.
me
Well, I
it's
mean now
more
you've got
about
difficulty
enjoyment.
levels, right? But back then it's like there's no difficulty level. You just
Yeah,
go, dude.
it was
Yeah.
just hard.
Yeah. It
The
was
only
just
game
hard.
I ever beat on like the extreme difficulty was Modern Warfare 1 and 2, Call of Duty.
Ooh.
And it's because I had a roommate in college that really loved playing Call of Duty and he would like
Hmm.
talk up how good he was. And I was
Ooh.
like, I want to be better than you.
True.
So I fucking worked my ass off
Mhm.
until I was better than him. And he would not admit it, but I fucking knew it. And that's all that mattered.
That's really awesome because one of the biggest things that makes us improve at a video game, and I mean some pros probably got this, through general competition and stuff, but dude, having rivals, having your friend who thinks he's like really good and you just try to one up each other, especially like in teenage years or stuff like that, dude, there's no greater motivator than someone IRL that's better than you at a video game and you're like, I can be better.
Yeah.
I had a very similar experience. I had a friend in middle school, I guess you could say, and we would both try and one up each other's times in Mario Kart Double Dash. I think we both played. Actually, no, there was two tracks we did this on. We did this on Baby Park, obviously, and then we did it on Bowser's Castle, and we would just try and one up each other's times constantly. We were getting really fucking good by the end of it. But yeah, I totally get the rivalry. It's really fun when something pushes you to kind of
Yeah.
one up the other, 100%. When you were like kind of a kid, because you mentioned like you had quite a few consoles, you really love video games and stuff like that. How were your parents with video games? Like, did they let you play as much as you want? Like, did you have any restrictions and stuff like that?
I mean, I'm sure I did have restrictions, but I don't ever remember feeling like, oh, I can't play like as much as I want. I probably wanted to play more, but any restrictions were probably genuinely for my benefit.
Oh yeah, for sure.
My mom has always been very like, yeah, video games are fine as part of a life, but
Yeah.
you need like other things too.
Mhm.
And I used to play video games with my dad a lot, so he was a big part of that like enjoyment of video games. And my mom too, like we would play video games together.
Oh wow.
But
Nice.
also my dad is like huge on reading, so he would just like be reading a lot. So as a kid growing up, like yeah, no, I like to read. So I would do other activities than gaming, but I did really love gaming, and again, probably would have done it more if my parents didn't stop me at some point.
Okay. Yeah. 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 I see you. I see you. But obviously, it helps when one of the parents at least plays video games because then they understand that video games won't make you a psychopath later on in life, but at the same time they know how much you should get in order to balance out
Yeah.
your life, which is the ideal one. Like it always helps when at least one parent does play the video game, and I think I've had a lot of fathers on the podcast, and most of what they had in common is that their dad played video games with them. But now I'm like looking at the next generation. It's like, well, I mean, I feel like 95% of dads now play video games
Yeah.
or have played video games and will continue to play video games because video games continue to evolve kind of in that way. And
Yeah, and I mean, we see that like in StarCraft, right? Like Raynor and Clem, these are basically children. They're kids. They played with their parents.
I'm pretty sure they're
And
18, but yes, they're children. Yeah,
that's why I said basically,
basically children. I mean, yeah.
They're fresh out of their childhoods, but they, started playing StarCraft at like 10 or 12
Yeah.
and because they had parents. Like, 10 or 12-year-old probably isn't going to pick up StarCraft on their own.
Mhm.
But whatever game and the same was true for me as a kid. Like, whatever game my dad was like, oh, I like this game, this game's cool. Yeah, like, I liked it more because of that.
Exactly.
Very specifically, there's an N64 game called Buck Bumble, and that was my dad's favorite game for the N64. So I have like very fond memories of playing that with him as a kid. And actually, I'm pretty confident he still has that game cartridge. Like, doesn't have the N64, but I'm pretty sure that he still has that game cartridge.
He should frame it, basically.
Right?
that
Yeah.
that represents like people's childhood and stuff. I'm always of the thought that if you enjoyed it as a kid, you shouldn't like discard it. You shouldn't just be
Yeah.
like, I'm past this. There's a thing I want to do, and I'm always way too intense with this, but I wanted to for next Christmas, if there is one, because we missed the last one, but I wanted to I'm always way too intense at Christmas, where I think way too hard about like presents. I've actually bought a present, I think at some point like 3 years in advance, because I thought of a concept. But what I wanted to do is like I wanted to give each member of my family like a game from their childhood to remember they can still get that feeling. Oh, that was really cool. Like, even if I'm an adult, I can still admit that a game when I was a kid is cool. It doesn't mean I'm an adult that I should just throw that away, right? So I was gonna get like I mean, my parents didn't really have video games, but I was gonna get my dad like a really old version of like Risk, the board game, like from 1970s or something like that. My big sister, she's like 30. She's gonna kill me for this. She's like 31 or 32, and her favorite game as a kid, and she talks about it to this day, is Pokemon Snap, as you said. And I know that even as a 30-year-old, she hasn't played video games in 20 years, maybe like 15 to 20 years. I am sure that if she sees that game, she'll be like, that's fucking awesome. And yeah, that's what games do to you. They're like a little piece of memory that you should keep. You shouldn't just be like, this is for kids, I don't care about this anymore. If you enjoyed it, you enjoyed it. I don't know.
No, I for sure agree. I love Pokemon Snap, so I'm on board with that. They're coming out with the second one soon, and I'm so excited. Like, I can't even explain to you.
Pardon? They're making a second one? How did I not hear of this? Wait, maybe I've heard of this. I'm not even sure.
It's coming out in like a month. I think it's
oh my god.
It's like April 14th or something, or it might actually even be the 17th.
It's not it's not a like HD version, right? It's like a new one?
It's a new one, yeah.
Okay.
So it's new Pokemon. It is HD, but it's all new Pokemon, all new courses and stuff. I'm so excited, and it's like the simplest game. Like, why is this exciting? I don't know.
I think
But
somebody
I have my
broke
save
down
file
why
still,
why it's such a good concept. But I there's a video on YouTube somewhere where it explains why Pokemon Snap was unlike any other game. It was a perfect storm of many things together that made it like an instant classic. Despite the fact it's literally just you pressing a button to take snaps of like Pokemon.
Like, as far as mechanics go, and like even just describing the game, it's so simple, and it seems like it shouldn't be that fun. It seems like it should be like a free game you get in a cereal box that you play like twice and then never remember. And here I am, like years later, still just gushing about it. Like, I'm gonna go load up Pokemon Snap later and play it. I love that game.
I'm actually so curious if some people if I could interview people who are in photography that got into photography because of Pokemon Snap.
Oh my god.
It's like to that point, honestly, because the thing with Pokemon Snap is that it does capture the feeling perfectly of, I want to capture something chaotic in the wild, but I can do it from the kind of angle I want, but I got to capture it at the right moment. I don't remember details of Snap, but I remember the Pokemans would do things at very certain times that you tried to get a picture of, because there was only one time that they would do that thing. You wanted to capture that moment. And I'm sure this happens with real photographers too, or where there's only gonna be one time where this photo is gonna work, and I gotta take it at that certain time, whether it's like time of day, whether it's like a certain thing happening at a certain time. It's like getting the timing on a photo has to be a rush. And honestly, it kind of felt like that in Snap, because you're like, oh my god, it's the Pokemons, they're doing the thing, quickly take a photo while he's doing the thing. uh it is
There's
really
nothing quite like taking a picture of Pikachu riding Articuno. The
Oh,
amount
man.
of work it takes to get that picture, you
Yeah.
know, like there's some good pictures you can get, but a lot of them it's like if you know to throw the apple over here,
Mhm.
sure you can get Pikachu on the surfboard. But Pikachu riding Articuno is like it's like this master plan of things you had to be doing this whole time.
Mhm.
That whole level and like you've got to make sure to knock the Pikachu off the balloons, and you've got to
Yeah.
wake Articuno out of the egg,
Yeah.
and it's all got to be in the right timing because if
Yeah.
you miss the window, Pikachu won't ride Articuno, and then you've got to get the picture
Yeah.
right. You have to like turn around and know that it's coming. Oh my god, dude,
There,
it's such a
there's a rush to that, and I
it
can't
really
explain it.
is.
And yeah, as you said, it's such a weird concept, but it works so much. And I thought about this when I was thinking about the the Pokemon Snap gift or whatever, is eventually in our lifetimes, and I'm pretty sure it'll happen in our lifetimes, but there will be a Pokemon MMO. And
Right.
people a lot of times will be thinking, okay, well, I'm gonna run around, I'm gonna find these Pokemon in real virtual open world, I'm gonna capture them. But I think a lot of people miss is that there's gonna be a subset of people that will go to this world just to take photos. It's
Yeah.
gonna be Pokemon Snap hidden within that like open world MMO, and I cannot wait for that day. That's gonna be a glorious day.
It's gonna be so great. And the thing about like the thing about Pokemon Snap that it makes it, I think, really fun on replay also, but doesn't allow for too much, like I guess, exploration, is that you're on a track and the Pokemon do the same things and they're very predictable, right?
Yeah.
You can get the Pokemon to do what you need them to do, and yeah, they're always going to be in the same spot. That Pidgey's always going to fly right in front of the camera in the first level every time.
Yeah.
So you're very limited on what you can do. But in like an MMO, they could be anywhere, doing anything.
Yeah.
Who knows? You know,
People will make galleries of that shit, dude. They're gonna be like,
oh, it's gonna
yeah.
be great.
Yeah, that will be amazing. Hopefully that's sooner rather than later, but who knows what will happen with Nintendo at that time. I don't know. I heard Microsoft tried to buy Nintendo at some point and they failed miserably, but that's a whole other can of worms. Yeah, so you kind of played through that, just in the N64, right through college and stuff. You mentioned I'm so curious about this. You moved to fucking Hawaii for college, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Now, a normal person would be like, wait, did you study theater, by the way, just to be clear?
I did.
Yeah,
yes.
it was theater there. Okay. So normal person would be like, okay, what school in the States could I go to? And then there would be one, they'd probably teach theater. But then there's the minds of you and I, where it's like, what if I just go completely somewhere else? How did you come to the decision to go to Hawaii? Because you were from upstate New York, right? And
yes.
how-
So I'm from
yeah.
upstate New York. It's a really boring place.
Yeah.
Not a lot happens up there, and that's totally fine. There's a lot of places like that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
we call those
But
places peaceful, basically.
Yes,
more, yeah.
it's got a lot of that going on. I wanted to go somewhere not that. I wanted a big change, really.
Mhm.
And initially I had joked with friends in like maybe a few years before I graduated about going to school in Hawaii. And I think to them it was like, this is a funny joke. And to me, I was like, that would be really cool.
I
Like
think, yeah,
really, I would love to do that.
Yeah, the more you thought about it, the more it was like, I actually want it more the more I think about it, kind of.
And things it kind of it really worked out in a very strange way. So I got that desire to like go do something completely different. That's for sure 100% from my mom. She is the kind of person who she wants to go somewhere else. She'll move to another state. She's like just ready to go. She wants to experience the next thing. And I wish I had more of that because it's a really great quality. She doesn't care. She'll just pack everything up and go somewhere. Like she'll do whatever it takes to get to that next thing because she wants that so badly. And I'm always like, oh, well, that's so much work and I don't want to blah, blah, blah. But I had this unique opportunity. I'm going to school. Like I'm going to do this no matter what. I might as well take the big leap. So it was before I was applying for any schools. This was my junior year of high school. So I wasn't going to graduate for another year and a half.
Yeah.
And I mentioned to her, I was like, I think I really want to go to school in Hawaii. Like, I had been researching schools. There was a state school there. You could pretty much study anything you wanted to. I didn't really know what I wanted to study at the time, but they had just everything I was interested in was a possibility. So I wasn't limited by going there. And I was like, I really want to experience something different. And she literally was like, okay, but I'm going on vacation there. My mom is married to a woman, and they were going to go on vacation to Hawaii like the next month.
No.
Completely unrelated to me wanting to go to school there.
Yeah.
And so I was like, that's weird. And they went there, and they're super into like real estate. So wherever they go, they will look up what's for sale. And that is just a thing. So they looked up what's for sale, and they were like, we think we want to just move here. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Yeah.
Holy
and they were
shit.
like, we found this really nice piece of property. It's on not the main city island. It's on a different island. So it's not like nearly as expensive as everybody thinks of when they think of Hawaii, because it's outside of the city. It's like a piece of property used for farming on the big island of Hawaii. And they were like, yeah, we think we're gonna move here. And I was like, that first of all, you stole my idea, right?
Yeah.
I literally just said I want to go here for school.
Yeah.
And they were like, but if we move here, you can get in-state tuition to go to that school. And I was like, I'm sold.
Sold, yeah. Well, at first you
and-
must have been thinking like, wait, are they doing this just for me? But like at the same
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
no, it was like both so convenient, I guess.
It was really because the thing is I didn't go to her and I was like, I'm going to this school. I applied. I'm in. It was like, hey, I just was looking this school up while I was looking up schools, and I thought this would be cool. And so it wasn't even like I wasn't determined to go there.
Yeah.
I had almost just mentioned it in passing, and I still applied to like a dozen schools. I didn't just say, well, it's Hawaii, that's it. But I got accepted to Hawaii, and the amount of money it was comparable to any state school I could have gone to in New York. And it was a fully different experience. I had no idea what to expect. Before I decided to go there, I had never been to Hawaii. I visited, but only after I accepted, or they accepted me. So it was a very wild experience for 17-year-old Chickenman.
17-year-old, yeah. I was roughly the same age when I had a similar thing right after high school, where it was kind of like, I want to go somewhere that I've never been to, because I had the choice to kind of follow in my big brother and my big sister's footsteps, where they would go to Montreal, and I was like, I don't want to go where they went, because I know that place. I kind of want to. I think a lot of people after high school, they get this sensation that they want to start fresh, kind of, or they want something really new. And I mean, to some people it's just changing schools, but I think to us it was kind of like changing geographically too. I kind of wanted a place I've never seen before. Some people be like, dude, I don't want to go there. It's like, dude, I've never been. What the hell? That would be stupid. That sounds ridiculous. But I would be like, that's exactly the point, my guy. No, I feel that.
You kind of throw yourself into something that you don't. It's unknown, and unknown can be scary, but also like, for me, I feel like unknown can be really liberating, because there's a lot of scary shit in this world that I know about, right? So if I'm going to something unknown, well, it could be scary, just like the things I know about, or it could be just not at all.
Yeah.
Like it could be great, but I don't know. So like, let's go find out.
Yeah, I mean, there's always gonna be like Hawaii is not known for terrorism, right? And it's like there's a certain base knowledge that that it's not a bad place per se. It's just that you have no idea what's there. Because if it was like known to be bad or something like that, we'd probably choose somewhere else. But the only thing that's unknown really is just what and where things are. It's not like, is it a bad place generally, because
Yeah.
I don't think Hawaii has a bad reputation. On the opposite, I'm pretty sure it's like the fucking Canada of the US, where just everyone's nice and, you know, we're playing ukulele all day.
It's funny, like nobody really knows what it's like in Hawaii.
No.
Like what it's actually like. It's so funny hearing people that have never been there
Nope.
and, you know, lived
Mhm.
wherever here on the mainland that they've lived their whole life. The expectations or the understanding of what Hawaii is like is just so off. You either
Oh,
have
yeah.
people who, I mean, you get people who are like, is there internet out there? And I'm like, what kind of question is that?
Yeah.
Like, over 1 million people live in this state. You know, like what? How do you think they survive?
Yeah.
Like,
It's
what is going on?
for sure. I mean, almost anywhere in the world, you can point at a map and there's probably a civilized area that looks pretty similar to what you already know somewhere. Like, there's buildings and there's roads and there's cars and there's everything we've come to know in this
Yeah.
modern world, and it's not that different. Like, you know, yeah, Hawaii is kind of like this. It's not only physical; it's kind of a metaphorical island where people have no idea what's going on there or what it's like. The
Yeah.
close I've seen to Hawaii is when I watched Terrace House when they were in Hawaii. It's like a Japanese show, um, but that's like the close I've seen to it. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
mean, before I went there, I had no idea what to expect. Like, really, just no idea. But that's what was so exciting about it. And
Yeah.
it's one of the few things I've ever done in my life where I like didn't second guess it at all, and I like didn't question if it was a good decision.
There's
I
no
just kind of
point. Yeah.
did that, and I don't know how like young me was able to do that because I feel like I second guess everything. But for some reason, that decision, moving to Hawaii, I was like, I'm going to do it. I did it, and I never once like regretted it. I never once was like,
Yeah.
oh, what if I had gone to uh, a SUNY school, which was the State University of New York, and or what if I had instead, you know, decided to go to New York City and study theater there. Like, I never second guessed it. I just like that's what I did. I went to Hawaii and I studied theater in Hawaii, and because of that, I learned a ton about Asian theater that I would never have known
Yeah.
in pretty much any other school in the U.S. You know, it is the foremost place of study when it comes to Asian theater. So there's so much I learned.
Did it feel like, because, you know, technically Hawaii is an American state, but like did it feel to you like you were studying abroad? Is there like that much of a kind of difference,
mean,
like school wise or culture wise?
I've never studied abroad, so I don't know
Fair enough, actually.
exactly what that feels like.
Yeah.
But it certainly felt like a completely different culture than what I had grown up with. And yeah, like you said, it was still the US, right? It was still America.
Technically, yeah.
And a lot of people that I went to school with, especially my first couple of years, were from different places on the mainland. So I'm still, you know, there's that culture is still there. But I was also learning so much about what else was in the world. And I think that happens kind of no matter where you go to college. But it was, and I mean, still, it's a very different culture in Hawaii than I think in the rest of the United States.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'd imagine you don't regret going there, because otherwise you would not have the girlfriend you have. I don't think.
True.
At this point, you'd have been very mad if you regretted going to Hawaii. True. But yeah, no, I mean, it's like a lot of times we can hesitate on a lot of things, but it's not going to Hawaii that you would like hesitate on. It's the fact that you were so certain that you wanted to go somewhere new, right? It's like, it's the feeling. You were more certain about the feeling than the choice to go to abroad or whatever. I say abroad, but it's not really abroad, but it kind of is, but it's not.
I mean, it kind of is. I went a very long way.
Yeah, there's a lot of water there somewhere, but
yeah.
Yeah, and so you started streaming uh when at that point when you were in
Uh,
Hawaii? Because you had been there for a little bit before you started streaming, right?
yeah. Honestly, one of the things that I do regret is that I didn't get into streaming
Earlier.
any sooner.
Yeah.
But
It's always the
there
regret.
is a reason for that. It's a very hardware based reason. I had a laptop
Yeah.
through college,
Yep.
and then post college, I built a computer, um, but it was like the cheapest, maybe $400 to
Yep.
put that computer together. It
Yeah.
was, I just was like, I need a computer. My laptop wasn't working anymore.
Mhm.
So that wasn't going to be able to, it barely played StarCraft, let alone streamed it.
Yeah.
Um, so it was a few years later. I think it was uh, like early 2017.
Mhm.
God, I'm trying to think now. It feels like
I
so
mean,
long
dude,
ago.
it's honestly at this point, I thought 2017 was yesterday. Turns out it's like 3.5 years ago, and it's like, oh god
Yeah, it's a
damn.
hot minute ago.
Yeah.
But that sounds about right. Maybe
But you were done with
maybe
college,
it was
right? It was after
2016.
college,
Yeah,
basically.
I was done with college, and um I worked like a few random jobs and always kind of worked part-time at a theater, but at some point I realized like, hey, I could probably stream. Like that's a thing I could probably do.
Yeah.
And that might be a good way to get me kind of back into playing StarCraft. I had never fallen out of love with StarCraft. I always wanted to play more, but uh, would would get very upset when I played.
Mhm.
So I thought having an audience would help me out. And for the first, I mean, honestly, probably the first year after I booted up my first stream, it had to have been in 2016. Um, I played almost no StarCraft, and I would stream very seldomly,
Mhm.
maybe once or twice a month.
Yeah.
I'd boot up a stream, but in that time, I learned a lot of valuable lessons that like only time can teach you about whether or not I wanted to use XSplit or OBS or Streamlabs Obs didn't, I don't think existed then, but like
Mm.
I learned a lot about how to stream and the production of it.
Yeah.
I got a webcam and a decent microphone and kind of worked my way up over time. But I played mostly just like Overwatch. I streamed like Fallout one time, like The Sims.
Wow.
I
I
wasn't.
never thought you would stream those games. I never thought I would even
Yeah,
hear those titles come out of your mouth, my
you
guy.
you wouldn't think so, right?
No.
But this was before I got back into StarCraft. So at the time, I was still like, okay, I'll play this game for a couple hours, and maybe then I'll play a ladder game.
Mm.
And it got to what I would eventually do for maybe 3 months, near the end of whatever year it was. God, I wish it had to have been okay, near the end of 2016. This happened. So I decided I was gonna stick with Overwatch more consistently on my stream. And I
Mhm.
started streaming maybe 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And I would play 1 to 5 games of StarCraft, usually one.
Yeah.
And then I would play Overwatch for about 3 hours. And at some point that 1 to 5 games of StarCraft became actually I'm enjoying this right now. I'm just gonna play. And would just play StarCraft for a stream. And like the first day where I just played StarCraft for like 3 or 4 hours, I was like, oh my God, I actually did it. Like it worked.
Yeah.
I just played StarCraft my
Yeah.
whole stream.
Yeah.
And a few days later, I was streaming and M. Canning rated me. And
Wow.
when you're a 2 viewer streamer,
Shit.
when 500 people come into your chat, that
Oh,
is
yeah.
an amazing occurrence.
Unbelievable. Yeah. And you see
Yeah,
the
and it
chat
was
explode
like,
for no reason, and you're like, what is happening?
oh my God, it was so incredible. Like
Yeah.
this raid alert that I had set up, I don't know what the hell it was at the time. It was probably a picture of a chicken and some classic rock song.
Yeah, probably.
This raid alert popped up that I had never heard before. Because it was the like over 10 raid alert. And it was like the first week I was playing StarCraft regularly on my stream, and I was like, oh my God, it's happening. Like it's really working.
Mm.
This is becoming a thing. Like I can do this. And
Yeah.
I think that like raid and that week of just realizing that I can play StarCraft for longer periods of time without getting really pissed off is kind of what pushed me to stream more often
Yeah.
and put more energy into it.
Yeah. Do you still kind of from that? Do you still like? Did you follow M Canning a lot from there? Did you? Because like he seemed to have been a pretty big part. He seemed to have been a part of a big feeling that you've had early on as a streamer. Like, is he a streamer that you still follow to this day a lot, or?
Unfortunately, he streams when I sleep now, but I do watch him occasionally. I don't watch as many streams as I used to, but absolutely, I'd still say I'm a big M Canning fan. And at the time, like even when he raided, I had already been a fan of his channel. Yeah. For a few months at that point. Yeah, I think he's a really interesting example of a streamer that hasn't changed what he's done for years, right? Like his camera angle, his camera shit is the same. He's still got like the same headset that he's had, and Sal still gives him shit for it. Like,
yeah, of course. M
Canning has provided a very consistent product as far as a streamer goes for a very long time. I think that's a really difficult thing to do. So it's really interesting. To me, that means that he's very comfortable with who he is and what he does on stream.
Yeah. He has one of the. If it weren't for his shitty, I don't know what his time zone is, but like if it wasn't for his shitty ass like schedule, dude, that guy deserves so many more viewers. He's such a good, bubbly, always effortlessly energetic and smiling personality. That like I guess Sal must be really frustrated. It's like, dude, you're such a good streamer. Why is your setup so shit? And it's like, I can kind of understand it from that perspective, but I just think he's like the living proof that you can be a really fun personality and nothing matters, kind of.
It's part of the charm too. Like, but I feel like it's such an interesting. It feels like a reflection of his personality, right? In the same way that for Uppetry Zelda, the reflection of his personality is he has all the hip top shit he could possibly have, and the moment the new thing comes out, he wants it, you know,
or he wants to test it, that's for sure.
Yeah, he at least wants to like give it a shot, right? And he's very knowledgeable about that, and that's to me is a reflection of his kind of personality. Whereas for M Canning, the reflection of his personality is, I don't know, the headset works, why would I change it? Like, why? I don't need a new one. Yeah, sure, I'm gonna keep doing the same Protoss build, you know, for however many years.
We might take a little bit of a Gordon Ramsay break in a second, and then we'll go back to StarCraft. And it's like, dude, he just does what he wants, dude. It's amazing.
That's right. I love it.
He has such a freeing personality. It's so carefree. It's so good.
Yeah, he's just such a charismatic guy, and seems so genuine too. Like, there's no, I don't feel like there's ever like an act being put on his stream.
Yeah.
It always feels very genuine, and he'll goof around, and even when he does put on an act, it feels very like, hey, I'm putting on this act, you know. It's very like hard on the sleeves, dude, right out there for you.
Have you seen his conversations with Parting when they're both drunk? It's the greatest shit I have ever seen on Twitch, I think.
It's the greatest shit you've ever not been able to hear.
Oh yeah, because it's just microphones buzzing. It's just terrible.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, yeah. Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, you mentioned that like the big raid. Yeah, before asking you another question, it reminded me of, I only had one big raid ever in my streaming times. I don't stream as much now because like I go to school like 40 hours a week. When I come back, I feel like my streaming style would not work, because what I do normally is I would play like one game of StarCraft or maybe two, and then I would fuck off and do something else for like 45 minutes, and then I would come back and play a game, and then I would take a 2-hour break, and I'd come back and play another game. It's like when you stream, you're supposed to queue kind of, right? So it's not my style that much. But anyway, I was playing Smash Brothers Melee. I almost never stream that game. Okay, I streamed that game maybe 3 times ever. Okay. Okay, so I'm just playing netplay with my friend. It was an old netplay. This must have been like a year and a half maybe ago. And so I'm playing my friend, and I can't tell you who I was playing because that'll just give it away. But all of a sudden my phone just starts like because I would play, but I can't look at my screen next to me. So I put the phone with the chat on my lap. Not that I would get any chat, because I had like 3 viewers or whatever. And I didn't notice the alert. I must have turned the alert off, or maybe I didn't have the sound on or whatever, but I didn't really hear it.
Yeah.
But I hear it. I just noticed that there's a raid because my chat just starts going fucking crazy, okay? And here comes spam upon spam upon spam of Pikachu emote, and I realize Axe raided me with like 500 viewers or 400 or whatever, and my Pikachu is really bad. I would main Pikachu, and my Pikachu was so bad, but I was just so happy in the moment. I was like, I can't believe what is happening. That has been like one of
That's
my
great.
most kind of like emotional kind of biggest emotion in streaming I've had, and I mean for the rare times that I've streamed. So I was wondering, is there any other like really emotional thing that just has uplifted you while streaming, or like memorable events like that?
I mean, there's nothing quite like getting a big raid from like from somebody in the community that you really respect.
Mhm.
You know, I feel like I've been around for a while. I've gotten lucky enough to meet a lot of these people in real life and chat with them in various different places.
Mm.
But like, you know, still like Roddy rated my stream the other day,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it still feels so nice to like get a raid from Roddy. You know,
Mhm.
I've been in his chat for fucking ever,
Yeah.
and I've been a mod in his chat for probably 4 years at this point. But like, it still feels so nice. Like, it feels so validating to have something like that happen. And um, you know, every now and then somebody will say something, will mention my name in like a pylon show, and I'm like, people know who
True.
I am.
Yeah.
You know, these people that I like have the utmost respect for.
Yeah.
It means so much.
And it's clear they have respect for you too. I remember I caught them saying something about you on the Pylon show, where it's like, I don't know why I remember this, but he says, you know, those guys like Chickenman, they're like way too polite. There's like Bjorn versus Clem coming up, and you know they don't want to hug it. So it's like, oh no, you Roddy, you can have it. I'll just take this random ass North American versus this random ass other North American, and Roddy's like, no, you take it. It's fine, dude. You're like way too modest. Like, I remember him saying something to that effect about you. Where you're trying to
that's
leave
a
the
very
actual
real
good players
thing.
for the real commentators. I have the biggest air quotes right now. You can't see, but yeah. Yeah,
It's a very real thing when you're, especially, I mean, like I cast the ESL weeklies every week, right?
Yeah.
And there's always the big commentators, you know, for EU, Roddy and Wardy are there.
Yeah.
And then for NA, you'll have like Pig and Zombie Grub
Mhm.
will be there casting too. And it's like, you know, as much as, yeah, sure, I'd love to commentate whatever the Beyond vs. Clem, or, you know, the like really incredible matches. But like, you know, sometimes I will. Sometimes
Yeah.
Pig's in there, I'll hop into. Like, it doesn't matter too much, right?
Mhm.
If we double cover.
Yeah.
But especially like the North America bracket, sometimes there's only like 2 or 3 English commentators, and I'm like, if we're all covering the same game, like, who's that helping? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, okay, I'll go cover the less exciting one. And sometimes I've had this happen plenty of times. The less exciting one, it turns out to be really fucking good.
Yeah.
And Beyond Clem or whatever it is just a bop. It's a 2-0.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I thought this was going to be a really good match, but so and so is playing at 3 o'clock in the morning with 200 ping. Like, yeah, they just lost.
I've always I was gonna say I don't want to cut into too much, but I've always stood by this where what is excellent StarCraft isn't the high level, it's when it's close. when the levels are similar, that's entertaining StarCraft to me. A lot of some people are kind of like but you know they're not doing triple prom drops all the time. I can't study this. Obviously some people are a little bit elitist. I think those are it's kind of a minority, but I like if there's a super high level game, let's say Serral I don't know why I say Serral, he's just the best, but I don't know, Serral versus fuck, I need a name here.
Well, I think
middle of the pack.
Just on Serral versus Rainer is a perfect example of this, right? Like, ZVZ is kind of boring. I'll say it. ZVZ is kind of boring.
Yeah.
But like,
actually, I want to talk about that later. But let's go.
When you get 2 players like Serral and Rainer, who are not only so good at the game, but really closely matched.
Yep.
It's so exciting. Like, Serral against I don't know, just like any kind of
Trying to think of a mid-tier
mid-tier, pretty
person.
solid Zerg player, it's like, yeah, Cyril's just gonna smack them. You know what I mean? Like, and this is no shade on anybody, but like Cyril's gonna smack him. It's gonna be boring
Yeah,
because it's
it is.
ZVZ.
Yeah.
But
And even
like,
if it wasn't ZVZ, it would still be boring in my opinion.
yeah,
But you
yeah,
know,
it can, and every now and then you'll get some entertainment out of it. It's not like the worst thing in the world, but
yeah,
it certainly is a lot better when the matches are close.
yeah,
Even like you say, if they're not the tip top level, like does it matter if it's the tip top level if we're gonna see battle cruisers and tempests
yeah,
and there's shield batteries everywhere and then it's a base trade and the game gets
yeah,
super scrappy? Like that could be in silver. It doesn't matter. It's still fun.
yeah. And it leads me kind of to my next question, where you talked about how really high level StarCraft, like we kept saying Beyond versus Clem, but it's a meme at this point. But those types of matches, it kind of gives you energy because they're so dynamic and stuff. And I was thinking, you can cast 7 hours of really high level because it's really cool, but and I think I assume Cock of the Walk, it has to be like Masters Plus at least, right? In terms of players.
I mean, there's no requirement, but pretty
Yeah.
much most of the players are GM.
Yeah, most of the players are probably GM. So like, yeah, Masters Plus. And so I was wondering, like, what would Chickenman prefer? Like 8 hours of high level, great, clean StarCraft dynamic with energy, or 8 hours of people who submitted replays to him that are absolutely just stupid low level shit.
Oh,
But that would be submitted to you, right? It's like, what would you enjoy more out of the 8 hour cast? Like 8 hours of nonsense, low levels submitted to you by your fans, or like prestige players that would play in front of you, right?
I'm gonna give you a metaphor
Yeah.
for how it feels to me to hear you ask this question, right?
Mm.
So this is like asking me if I would rather um, cook a really really good meal, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
I'm really good at making like a really solid Italian sauce and meatballs.
Yeah.
So would I rather spend all day making one of my favorite things to eat, meatballs and red sauce and pasta and garlic bread?
Yeah.
Oh, my mouth is watering just thinking about it. Or would I rather fucking order a pizza from Domino's or something?
Yep.
Or like just like trash pizza.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a
Specifically
tough
trash pizza.
question.
Yeah. True.
Because like, yeah, that meal would be so good. And there's something like really special about making all that food. But like, if pizza showed up at my door right now, I know which one I would be doing.
Yeah.
So to me, there's no real answer to that.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to cast just that high level, crisp StarCraft all day. I could do that. I don't even know how long I could do that for because I've never had more than like a few games in a row of just that beautiful high level stuff. I think I could just do that all day. But I think the bigger smile on my face would probably be after casting just a ton of like platinum level replays
Yeah.
of people doing crazy ladder shit.
Yep.
That to me, oh man, that stuff's so goofy and it's so much fun and like a bunch of stuff doesn't make sense, but
Yeah.
who cares?
Who cares, indeed? And I think it's people, masters, well, under GM basically, that can appreciate the game on a more casual level.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people. Actually, I might talk about this poll at some point, but a lot of people like look at a game, and if players are playing bad, it would kind of frustrate them because like, dude, the hell are you doing? You're supposed to switch the barracks with the reactor on the factory. You're not supposed to just build a reactor on your factory. What the fuck is this? Like, they'll obsess because it's so wrong. But that at the same time, there's another part of us that are like, yeah, let's not make this an elitist game, and we can just play the game. We don't have to, like, it doesn't always have to be the best. Even if it's not efficient, the other person's not being efficient at all. So let's see how that interaction goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the beautiful thing about StarCraft to me is that like it almost doesn't matter unless you're at the top of GM. It doesn't really matter how you want to play. You can become the best at whatever stupid thing you want to be the best at.
Mm.
And you can absolutely go up the ranks with this really dumb like concept. You know, if you want to be the battle cruiser guy, yeah, you can
kinda
absolutely get
It's all
to
best of
mid-GM
ones, you know.
as the
So
battle cruiser. Yeah, it's all
yeah.
best of ones. Like, do you want to go blink DTs every game? I know somebody who does,
I
and
know
guess what?
somebody
He is
does.
in Masters.
True.
So, like, you can be the best at whatever it is you want, whatever your strategy is. If your
Yeah.
strategy is turtle to the biggest air army you want,
Yep.
Protoss is for you. People that have been doing that for a decade now.
Yeah.
Go for it. You know, if you want to just make lings and upgrade lings and rush to hive for adrenal, please go do it.
Yes, please.
And no matter what, the great thing about ladder is you'll go to a place where you have a 50% win rate, roughly, right? So
Yeah.
whatever your style is, you just make that work. Like, it doesn't matter. The ladder will adjust your rank, and you'll be able to play your style and have fun.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite things about StarCraft is like, sure, sometimes I want to like play macro and really work on some mechanics, and sometimes I just want to cheese.
Yeah.
And I
100%,
could
yeah.
just do that.
I'm always curious about casters because a lot of casters they cast so much high level. So I wonder like would they appreciate low level nonsense as well? And I'm not too sure about this. I made a poll on Reddit. I almost never make polls, but I made a poll because I thought about this question a lot, and I wrote it was a poll something along the lines of, would you watch a pro StarCraft match if the race that you played was not in the match? So let's say you play
Ooh.
Terran and there's a PVZ, right? Whatever, it's something like that. And I gave like a couple of answers like, yes, I watch all StarCraft. 2 would be like it depends if it's like well-known players. Like it would be like if it's a Serral Raider
Right.
kind of situation and you play Terran, you would still watch that.
Yeah.
The other one would be like just rarely. And then the fourth one, I said, no, what's the point? And because this happens with the highest level people.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, what's the point of watching other matchups? And I wrote this even in Hero Marine's chat at some point. I was like, hey, do you ever watch the other matchups? Because I was wondering, like, he plays Terran, but is he a fan of just watching the scene? And he's like, yeah, I watch PVZ sometimes. Yeah, I mean, sometimes, yeah. And in my mind, I just went like, did he forget there's ZVZ and PvP, or am I crazy? It's like, yeah, because, like, and to my great surprise, and this might be biased because it's Reddit too, but like my great surprise, the biggest category it was, actually I don't remember which one of the two, but it was between these two. But biggest category was yes, I watch all StarCraft, or it kind of depends on who plays, like if it's a really big names or something like that. And I think the biggest category was I watch all StarCraft, which regained my like hope in humanity.
Yeah, that's actually really nice to hear.
Yeah, because I really
if-
thought that
if you had
people would
asked me
only
what-
watch based on the
Yeah.
race, but that's not true actually. So I
That's
was
really
happy.
good. I'm glad to hear that. Because I know some people who only really watch their race.
Yeah.
And again, there is a little bit of that. Like, sure, if it's a finals between like Stats and Serral, yeah, maybe I'll pop that on the TV. That'll be a good one.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they'll pretty much only just watch their race. I like whenever GSL is on, I know there's a group of people in Upper Street Zelda's channel that'll watch the GSL, and they'll be like, okay, like Cure's up first.
Yeah.
But then after that is a ZVZ.
Yeah.
And then like if Cure gets out and it's like just the Zergs and the Protoss left,
Yeah.
like they'll just stop watching. And I'm like,
Is that in?
I need to know if SOS gets out.
Yeah.
Because he's up against Armani and Impact and he should be favored, but it's SOS and like I don't know. And I want Armani to go through because I think he's really good, but SOS is like the man. And like, yeah, of course Cure got out first because he's Cure, but like how do you guys not want to know like what the answer is
Yeah.
here? You know, like to me, and I've always felt it like when I first started watching StarCraft, sure, I played Terran at the start,
Yeah.
but like that was never what interested me when I was watching. I never watched to learn the next best Terran build. I
Yeah.
was in silver. Like it didn't matter.
True.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm watching it because man, it's so exciting and like all the matchups are exciting and
Hmm.
every matchup can have like dud builds and you can have some players who maybe they play kind of boring.
Yeah.
You end up with some boring games. That happens,
Yeah.
but it's true of all matchups and they can all be so exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. So from that poll, I think there was around 500 to 600 people who voted on that poll, and I think 10% or less were in the no. I basically only watch my race,
Mm,
which was huge to me. I really was expecting
yeah.
more, honestly. And I had this story with Aperture Zelda because you mentioned was it on his Discord that you mentioned earlier, or like was it on
Yeah.
his?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It's based on Aperture story, and this is no. I'm not like calling out Aperture or anything like that or Sal or anything, but he came to a DreamHack Montreal, and I vividly remember this because I didn't get like salty. I was just kind of it just kind of felt weird, but we were in the we're in the bleachers and we were watching the game, and it was I think it was Special versus Rainer, and Special was the last Terran. It was like the round of 4. It was WCS, and whoever would win would probably I think would go to see like Cyril in the finals, and of course it was a Rainer Cyril finals. And as soon as Special lost 3-0 to Rainer, um, Sal just left, and I was like, we're in a live StarCraft event, and he kind of just
Yeah.
didn't really bother. And I was like, I kind of get it too, because at the same time, a lot of people don't like ZVZ, which I don't super agree with. I'll give my take on like why people think they don't like ZVZ, but yeah, I just found that kind of weird. And ever since that moment, I was realizing like, are a lot of people like this where they only watch the race, and you know, because for me, like my whole history, I was kind of like you. I think I got Diamond for the first time maybe in like 2015 or something like that. But before then, I was just such a scrub that I just loved watching everything. In fact, my race switched based on which player I liked because I watched all StarCraft. I started as a Zerg player, and then I started really liking Naniwa, and then don't judge me, okay? And then I started playing Protoss for quite a bit. And then eventually I found out that all the players that I really like to watch were Terran, so I switched to Terran after that. So I feel like watching all of StarCraft can guide you to where you actually want to be race-wise as well.
Yeah.
But yeah. Shit, I already forgot where I wanted to go with this. Oh, right. Real quick, ZVZ. I think ZVZ's not boring at all, especially ever since Legacy of the Void, since like the starts, like 2016. I think the biggest part that turns people off from ZVZ is that it's very difficult on the eyes. It's all very dark colors. Everything is very gooey. Everything is very like the sound effects aren't pleasant to hear. It's fun to hear like siege tanks exploding. It's fun to hear lasers. That's like ASMR. But watching like just units like puke on each other, it's dark colors everywhere, it's very difficult on the eyes. I think visually ZVZ is very boring to watch, but I think the matchup itself is very, very dynamic, and no one would ever disagree that like Ling Baneling fights are absolutely insane, and it can go even more insane from there. So I think a lot of people are get turned off mostly based on the visuals, honestly. If they could get past that, I feel like ZVZ is one of the more dynamic matchups. In fact, I think all the best matchups, I'm gonna say it, TVZ is not the best matchups. All the best matchups is the 3 mirror matchups. That's just my take. All right, that's my hot take of the day.
That's a very hot take. I'm gonna go ahead and just I think I have to disagree.
Oh, go ahead.
On a different, I don't know, some sort of level here.
Yeah.
I think a lot of what happened to ZVZ too is that in like 2018, there were a ton of ZVZs. It was all over the place.
Yeah.
And it was pretty much all European ZVZ, which at the time was, I'm going to get to roaches. What are you going to do? Oh, I'm going to get to roaches too. Okay, roaches. and then everybody smashed roaches into each
That was
other.
more.
And
I
that
feel like that was more Heart of the Swarm though. I feel like as soon as Legacy came in, it was a lot more mutal play. Some lurkers got figured out pretty fast as well. But
not in 2018.
2018.
The
All
only
right, it's
exception to
possible.
that was Raynor. But there were some
Yeah.
Korean Zergs who did different things. But even the Korean Zergs were big roach boys at the time. You had
Yeah.
Dark,
Oh no,
and you
Koreans
had
were pure roaches.
Sue,
True. Yeah.
and Impact. But then I mean it was just tons of roaches all over the place. And then Raynor was like, "What about Ling Lurker?" And it was like, "Oh, that's interesting."
That was revolutionary.
But Serral was still on top at the time, right? So it was Serral against Korean Zergs, and it was just like constantly. And not that roach battles can't be fun. I very specifically remember Serral versus Sue on year 0 at Katowice. That was like
Mm,
so fucking cool. Oh my god, that game was so good. And it was just roaches. It like came down to the last 4 roaches
Yeah.
between them. It was insane.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of roaches for a while, and I think the community got very saturated with ZVZ, and it was like we need other things, and that some of that still lingers, but I
Still
think
lingers.
people are starting to realize,
Even though it's not
I
that
don't,
many roaches versus roaches anymore, I feel like that
yeah, no,
roach
it's
period
never
still
roach versus
lingers
roach.
on
Yeah.
and the at the back of everyone's head. Even though it's not actually happening on screen, people still go ZVZ on in Twitch chat
Yeah.
because like they still think it's boring, even though it's not. It's just that it's that
It's
period
really
has
not,
happened
and
for
like
sure.
some of those roach boys, like Dark has shown. He's like, what if I just kill you before the roaches? And he just makes a ton of Ling Bane and is really good with it. And it has been smashing some Zerg players lately. It's so interesting. And yeah, there's almost every ZVZ these days. It seems like one player's on ground and one player goes to air.
Yep.
It's almost always like there's a Muta player and there's a Roach player.
Yep. Exactly.
And that it's made it so much more dynamic. I think
Yep.
it's in a great spot these days.
For sure.
In fact, I think all the matchups are in a great spot. PvP though is
It's still
the most hit or miss
it's still
mirror
yeah,
matchup.
True.
Because either it's like a cannon rush or a proxy,
Yeah.
and things heat up in about 5 seconds flat,
Mhm.
and the game's over by the 8-minute mark. Or they macro to 3 bases and have the same armies and then smash into each other, and one player has better positioning and wins.
Yeah.
And that's like, you either have one or the other. And it's so,
Mm.
it's either the most exciting matchup or the least exciting matchup. And
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened.
Yeah. I mean, the 3 players that make PvP like seem like the best matchup ever is Parting, SOS, and Patience. When those 3 are in a PvP, you don't know what's gonna happen. Shit's
Yeah.
crazy, shit's everywhere, nothing makes any sense, but at the same time, it's also very cerebral, it's very positional, and it's like, holy shit, this matchup is awesome, dude.
I think
Yeah.
I think Blink Stalkers really make a good PvP. If I mean, I don't want to say if the players skip Blink, it's not good, but kind of if they go into charge first,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, this is gonna be boring.
Yeah, because
I
it's just
see.
gonna
We're
be
going to
Archon
charge
Immortal,
out
charge
Archon
out, yeah.
Immortal,
Exactly.
and that's it. But Blink Stalkers, it's like, even if we get to late game now, even if it's pretty passive, we might get Blink Ruptor out of it.
Yeah.
And that's the most exciting matchup, is Blink Ruptor versus Blink Ruptor.
Yeah. I think there's still room for a lot of room for PvP meta because we've like started because the general direction of most matchups across the expansions and years is that every single start of the expansion, everything ends in 5 minutes, and by the end of the expansion, every game is a macro game. Why? Because we figure out how to cut every corner, and in PvP, there's still a lot of room to figure out how to cut those corners. Some people have experimented with one gate expands, but eventually, I feel like PvP is going to get to a point where it can really open up economic wise, and we can get a lot better. Even every single start of every single expansion, Terran versus Terran is it's a nightmare early game. It is so much shit thrown at each other, coin flippy shit. But now you look at these days, bro, we're making 3 CCs at 4 minutes. Like, what? There's still room to grow, but like there's some cerebral aspects of PvP that can make it great, and that's why I love mirror matchups so much, because there's an easy way to tell who's ahead, and it's like, how with the same pieces do you pull ahead? I think that's very fascinating to me.
I think MaxPax is my favorite player to watch right now, because he thinks about the game in a way different to pretty much every other
Oh,
Protoss, I think.
100%.
And he'll just do something and I'm like, this is bad, right? And he was playing a series against Zest a couple weeks ago I was casting, and he like did the one gate expand, and he does that pretty much every single PvP. He's the only one I see do it every time.
Yeah.
And Zest was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna kill you then.
Yeah.
Like you're one gate expanding, I'm gonna kill you. And I was like, Max Packs is good against this, but like this is Zest, right? Like he's gonna smash him. No, Max Packs held and just won. Like it was just so good. I was like, he cut all the corners you're not supposed to be able to cut in this matchup, and he still won.
Exactly. He dares to cut the corners and learn how to actually cut the corner. Obviously, he must have failed a tremendous amount trying to do this one gate expand, but eventually he found out how to get around it and actually do it. People are very scared to stray away from the 2-gate expand, but if, I think we'll get there. You know, and one day we're gonna cut so many corners. We're gonna go Cybercore before Gateway into Nexus. Like it's gonna be amazing. No, I'm kidding. That makes no sense. But
amazing,
yeah. Has there been any games you've casted or games you even played that just stick out in your mind as like very memorable for maybe all the right reasons or all the wrong reasons? I don't know.
Ooh, games that I've casted that stick with me. I don't think any of them stick with me too long. Like the ones I'm thinking of right now, there's like a really good Bly Nina series not too long ago. One of the games, Bly had like burrowed neural infestors. It was super cool, but I think after a while they all start to fade. Maybe that's because I cast.
I think that I think that's many games. The sheer amount that you just digest, games that you digest, probably just eventually comes in, comes out. Yeah.
What I remember more is what I watch. Like I just mentioned Serral versus Sue on year 0 in Katowice. For some reason that stuck with me. There's no way I could have told you the name of that map, but I remember it specifically with the series. I specifically remember the moment in the game where it was getting so tense and so exciting. So for me, like watching certain games sticks with me more than anything else. Recently, Raynor against Maru, I was listening to that while I was at work.
Oh my god, what a great
it was
series,
like it was the last game, game 5, and it was a couple minutes in, and I was like, I'm too focused on this and excited.
The stakes are so high.
I went to a break at work and just like watched it in the break room on my phone on my 10-minute break. And it was so good. I was in there alone because I was like jumping up and down. It was so exciting. And I never quite get that excited when I'm casting. And maybe it's because I'm sitting down. I would love to try standing one of these days. I need to get a standing desk. But I don't know, that like that energy when I'm watching it feels so much more memorable.
Yeah. I remember watching that game 5 too. And it was crazy because Maru was up 2 games, and then Raynor brought it back with 2 smart builds, and then that last game, the only thing that I could think of when I watched that last game was Raynor is trying really hard. He is I was watching the game and I could put myself in Raynor's shoes, and all I could think of is that Raynor was trying really hard. I don't know how to describe it, but I could tell he was trying as hard as he could to bring it back. And he was getting attacked everywhere. He was in pretty bad decision, but he just tried his best beginning to end, gave it his 1000%, and eventually he created a lead that was insurmountable. And eventually there's this weird period in the Supreme late game where Cracklings just become Supreme again. And as soon as he came back to the Cracklings, it's like, dude, no amount of power you have matters. We could give you 30 supply Maru, you're still gonna lose this game. It was such a great game. I felt he sweat after that series, and that's why when he popped off after, I mean, like, I totally understood. I would have popped off too. Like, Jesus.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man, that was amazing. Jeez, we're coming up on 2 hours, my guy. This is really long. I think we've pretty much reached every single question I've said some of them make no sense. I had a question. I had a question about like why are we so obsessed with like putting a bajillion hours into the layout? And I was gonna make a metaphor and like it's kind of like when you move and you get to arrange your room for the first time. That's how
Oh my
making a new
god.
layout feels. You get to arrange your new
Yes.
room, right? And that's what's exciting about it. That's why we can put like 12 hours into it and it doesn't bother us. It's like, I'm just designing my new room. I'm gonna put this over here and put this over here. Nobody cares, but like we're gonna do it
I
because it
know.
feels really comfortable and
It's
it's really fun for some reason. Yeah.
it's so funny. I literally did have done both of those things. I just moved into a new apartment and I have my own little studio space now. So I've like set it up and I'm still working on that. And it's been so much fun. But it's funny you make that connection to like having an overlay and getting to set that up. And it is really is like that same energy
It is,
of,
yeah.
oh, I can put this over here
Yeah.
and this piece of furniture here.
Yeah.
And then I have this picture I can put up over here.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just thought I'd throw that out there. That's why like I'm really down for whenever I move. It's like some people are like, "Oh man, unpacking sucks." I'm like, "Dude, unpacking is awesome. I get to choose where shit goes. That's amazing."
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, my guy, it's been a long, very fun conversation. Hopefully, eventually. Okay, so this is my hopes is that one day. God, please don't laugh. Okay, one day COVID will be over. I laughed myself. Fuck. And then we might go to because now you're on the mainland, as you say.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if there's ever an event live, we're coming up on the last years of StarCraft events, kinda. So we're gonna go there, and I will pay us. I will treat us both to some fried chicken. All right.
Oh,
Dude,
let's do it. I'm
let's,
super down.
I am.
You said you
Hold
went
me
to,
to those words.
DreamHack Montreal
Yeah, because I live there.
last
but-
time. Yes.
I
Perfect.
might actually
really wanna go
fly
to
out
Montreal,
eventually
so.
to maybe an event, depending on where it is and what they track. But Montreal is like an Olympic stadium, and they rent it out for cheap, so they do it there often. Yeah.
If there's another DreamHack Montreal, you have my word. I will be there.
Oh shit. Yeah.
It's already. I was literally gonna go in 2020. It was a plan.
Yeah.
I like
Ugh.
looked up which hotel I was gonna stay. I almost booked the hotel. I'm
Shit.
very glad I didn't.
Mm.
Because then obviously COVID happened, and I was like, oh, maybe I can still. And then they canceled, and I was like, never mind.
No,
Maybe
that sucks,
next
yeah.
year. So
Yeah.
hopefully, because there's a few people in the StarCraft community that I haven't met yet that I really want to. We've talked a lot today about Upper Tree Zelda.
Yep.
And
You've
him
been
and,
in
like,
Discord
Juggernaut
calls with the
Jason
man,
and-
but you haven't seen him.
yeah, I've never got to meet him.
Yeah.
And obviously, I mentioned I still have family in upstate New York.
Yeah.
So, his fun fact: I actually went to a DreamHack Montreal in 2016. I was visiting my family and drove up for
Shit,
the
that was
day.
the first one.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody. I had not a single connection
Yeah.
in the StarCraft community, so I just went up by myself,
Yeah.
sat in the bleachers, and watched. That was not at an Olympic stadium. That was at
No, that was somewhere else. It was downtown. I remember who it was. Yeah. Yeah. The
So,
Olympic
next-
Stadium started in like 2017, I think. Yeah, but 17, 18. Yeah, somewhere along those lines. But yeah, you have my word. I'll treat us to some fried chicken on me. All right.
I'm ready for it.
All right. Excellent, dude. All right. See you around.
Thank you for having me on, man.
See ya.